meeting with the potential to make a lot of noise. U.S. President Obama met with the Dalai Lama at the White House today, despite China's threats to the U.S. if it did not cancel the meeting. Was the meeting worth it, and will China retaliate? Here to talk about the implications of all this is investigative journalist Webster Tarpley. Mr. Tarpley, talk a little bit about what all this means. I mean, obviously, the United States knows that China was not happy with this, and yet they went forward with this meeting anyway.
The meeting has now occurred, and it was done in low-key. It was done in the map room, not the Oval Office. There was no pool of press. There was no official photograph. There was no press conference. There was no handshake. There was no joint statement. There was none of that. The Dalai Lama said he was very happy, and Obama was very supportive, and Gibbs said, yes, Obama supports the Dalai Lama, and Obama seems to say there should be direct talks between China and Tibet, which there already are. So that's basically that, except that this is a monumental affront to China. It is a very unfriendly act. If we had a secessionist movement in North Dakota or something and they were received by the president of China, the U.S. would scream bloody murder. So I think you can put that in perspective.
And let's remind people here, this is not the first offense that the U.S. has done toward China, who, by the way, the United States
rising tensions with the U.S. A commentary Sunday, North Korea's main state-run newspaper claims the U.S. has 1,000 nuclear weapons in South Korea. Another commentary in state-run media says the North is completely within the range of U.S. nuclear attack and that the Korean Peninsula is becoming an area where the chances of a nuclear war are the highest in the world. A spokesman at the U.S. military command in Seoul calls the accusation baseless, saying Washington has no nuclear bombs in South Korea. The North's defiance presents a growing diplomatic headache for President Barack Obama as he prepares for talks Tuesday with his South Korean counterpart on the North's missile and nuclear programs. As punishment for the North's latest nuclear test in May, the United Nations Security Council has approved new sanctions aimed at depriving North Korea of financing used to build its nuclear.
Warnings that the North may be getting ready to launch another missile, potentially in a matter of hours or days. Tonight, the official North Korean news agency, obviously controlled by the North Korean government, is reporting, and I quote, if the U.S. imperialists start another war, the army and people of Korea will wipe out the aggressors on the globe once and for all.
This comment just came in. The president of Iran just said, just a short time ago, where you are there, said that the Zionist regime will soon be wiped out.
President Ahmadinejad's speech earlier this week saying that a new wave of Palestinian attacks would wipe Israel off the face of the earth.
The Iranians are trying to not just mock, but deny a Holocaust while simultaneously preparing to launch another. The president of Iran is talking about genocide, wiping Israel and, frankly, the United States off the map.
You might like to know what the Bible has to say about Israel in the last days. Is this the beginning of Ezekiel 38? We don't know, but it's getting close.
As a Jew, I feel much more threatened by people like Jimmy Carter when Israel is facing genocidal enemies who have sworn to destroy it and kill the Jews.
Now, let's look at the map and to see what he's talking about. Here is Israel in the middle.
The current president of Iran has announced that the destruction of Israel is an important part of their agenda.
I spoke to Mark Regev from the Israeli Foreign Ministry in Jerusalem. Does he agree with Benjamin Netanyahu, I asked, that Ahmadinejad is the worst tyrant since Hitler and Israel's greatest enemy?
I think so. We got common goals that make sense for both our peoples. Two such goals are Iran convincing the Iranians to get rid of its nuclear weapons.
I'd love to think there's something to negotiate with Iran about, but you have a president there who his sworn aim is to wipe Israel off the face of the map and kill every Jew in the Middle East.
There is going to be this armada of essentially these Muslim nations joined with Russia to invade Israel, it says, in the latter days.
Ahmadinejad is the new Hitler. Too many Americans, and particularly on the left, don't see that. They don't see the threat. Ahmadinejad is saying to people in Iran that the end of the world is rapidly approaching, and that it's his mission to bring it about by destroying Israel.
Another one said, I want to destroy the Jews of the world. And another one said, only when no Jews are living, the world will be better. We know that the Shoah came. Take Ahmadinejad very serious.
Israel might be wiped off the map. And he stands up, he says Israel should be wiped off the map.
Wiped off the map.
Eliminate Israel from the face of the earth.
Wiped off the map.
Wipe Israel off the map. Wiped off the map.
Wiped off the map. Destruction of Israel.
Israel should be wiped off the map.
Are we going to have to wait until there's a mushroom cloud over Jerusalem?
That's the situation described by the prophet Ezekiel. You ought to read your Bibles.
Nearly half of the U.S. believes we will eventually have to take military action against Iran, according to our new Fox poll.
Antichrist begins his campaign to destroy the Jews by attacking Jerusalem. The fighting is intense, and the Jews are defeated, suffering enormous casualties. With Israel's capital under his control, the Antichrist then directs his attack on the Jews who had fled the city after the temple's desecration. He orders his armies into the wilderness. As the Antichrist approaches, the Jews will cry out to God for deliverance and turn to the Messiah they had long rejected. In that extraordinary moment, God's covenant with Israel is made complete, and the prophetic words of Christ again come into focus.
O Jerusalem, I tell you, you will not see me again until you say, Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord.
For the last remnant of the Jewish population, terror now turns to hope as Jesus Christ, their promised Messiah, stands ready to return and fight the legions of Satan in the final battle of Armageddon.
And so the final confrontation taking place at Armageddon, just outside the city of Jerusalem, indicates to us that in God's view of things, Jerusalem is the center of the world. This is the place where the line of the Messiah started. This is the place where Jesus died on the cross. This is the place where it's all going to culminate in this final battle. And then when Christ returns, he'll go to Jerusalem, sit on the throne of David, and rule the kingdom just as the Old Testament prophets predicted the Messiah would do.
The very prospect of Christ's return shakes the universe to its core.
The sun will be darkened. The moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken.
The heavens are darkened like a great stage before the curtain rises on the most dramatic event in history. Then what Christ described as the sign of the Son of Man will appear for the entire world to see.